Good evening. Before we get to Newsnight's investigation into Amazon and the gig economy, we're first going to look at a new data on the government's test and trace scheme. When people have insecure employment, variable income, or are experiencing greater financial hardship, they're less likely to self-isolate and are far less likely to request a COVID-19 test if they have symptoms. On Newsnight, we've been reporting on the difficulties in accessing the government's self-isolation payment scheme for those on low incomes since the early days of the pandemic. Well, now a large-scale study of the test and trace system published today in the British Medical Journal has outlined the scale of the issue. Here's our political editor, Nick Watt, with the details. Steve Rotherham, I mean, more than 31 million people have been vaccinated so far. This now presumably will be a short-term problem.
Yeah, vaccine is good, but look, there is...
Candidates on the BBC website after the close of nominations next week. Now, what do you do if you want something fast and delivered right to your door, be it books, bedding, electronics, or even dog food? Do you shop around or go for the easy option? Such has been the transformation of millions of people's shopping habits that one company, Amazon, has been described as one of the most influential economic and cultural forces in the world. And Amazon just doesn't deliver, it also has a publishing arm and makes films and television through Amazon Studios. And the pandemic has boosted its super healthy share price. But what about the people who deliver your Amazon parcel? Just how good is life for them in the gig economy? In this special Newsnight investigation, our policy editor Lewis Goodall discovers the pressure Amazon puts them under. On that question, if you take somewhere like New York, the presumption is that people aren't cheating the system. They're given payments to stay at home there. Vicky Price, what's your response to that then? Because presumably there is something in what Max says and there is something in what Robert says, depending on how you feel, particularly about your own job and about the actual basis of the gig economy.
I think it's absolutely true that if you do serve...
The situation, Max, is that no matter how people may rail against individual cases, who in the country that gets Amazon on their doorstep 4 hours later is going to sort of start wringing their hands? The trouble is, consumers want it always. They want it very, very fast. They don't want to have to pay a lot of money for it. So in a sense, the gig economy, I suppose, is destined to remain like this if it's deemed to be working. Very much indeed. In the UK, we are deemed to be having a good vaccine rollout. More than 30 million people have had their first coronavirus jab and 3 million their second. But we are some way behind the world leader, Israel, which by mid-March had fully vaccinated half its population and given 60% its first dose, though broken down that figure also contains a lower uptake among Arab Israelis. Now, of course, it's a compact country which has a population of just 9.3 million, so they haven't faced some of the same challenges as other countries. But they are now about to power ahead with teenage vaccinations. Around 1 in 3 Israelis is under 16 and not yet eligible. But following an announcement by Pfizer that a trial for 12 to 15-year-olds has shown the vaccine to be 100% effective, the plan is to extend the programme. Well, earlier this evening, I spoke to Dr. Ronnie Gamzu, Israel's former coronavirus czar, director of Ishliov Hospital in Tel Aviv. I started by asking him what's happening in Israel now with coronavirus cases.